This is going to be a busy week here at Community of Christ. In the wider world, it's a busy week, as for many in the church, we begin the season of Lent with Ash Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, the 18th of February, and it begins this 40-day season that turns us back toward the cross and to renewed discipleship. For many people, it involves the added rhythm of additional times for worship and prayer, maybe additional disciplines. It's a time of focus, of intention, and that can make life feel heavier. For us here at Community of Christ, this is also getting ready for Vicar Natalie's last Sunday with us and her big farewell, for all the ways that we've been preparing, all the things that she has to share with us for her last Sunday, and all the things we're going to do as we say both goodbye and also Godspeed, trusting that we're all held together in the love of God and in the wider community of the church, that we won't be separated forever, but that she'll be moving on to the next chapter of ministry for her own calling and her own ministry soon. So there's a lot going on. How do we hold on to all those things? Well, in a way, it's kind of helpful to remember. This coming Sunday, we're going to hear the story of Jesus going through a really intense time of his own for 40 days in the wilderness. When he goes immediately after being baptized, the Spirit drives him out into the wilderness, and he faces some of the most intense and direct temptation about how to be God's Messiah. The tempter shows up daring him to turn rocks into bread, right? You've got a little bit of hunger. How about you take care of your own problems by doing some divine magic, Jesus? And Jesus says, no, that's not how I've come to be God's Messiah. I'm not here to just take care of myself. Well, how about you wow everybody by jumping off the temple, and when the angels come to catch you, because you know they will, everybody will know you've got supernatural power. You can command angel armies after all. And Jesus says, no, I haven't come to command angel armies for my own comfort or convenience, or to put on a show to be a spectacle. That's not why I've come. And last, the tempter offers Jesus all the kingdoms of the world and their glory and their splendor, if only Jesus will bow down and worship the tempter, worship Satan. And Jesus refuses, saying it's not worth that trade-off to lose his allegiance to God for the sake of whatever kind of political power the devil thinks he can offer. In each of those moments, Jesus has got to be under immense stress, right? He's trying to live out his identity as God's anointed, as God's Messiah, as the one everyone has been waiting for, and trying to figure out how to do that. What course should he take? And in some ways, it frightens me every time I read this story, because it feels like Jesus gets it right, and I look at myself, and so often I give in, I fail, I make the wrong choice, I give in to the wrong set of values, I betray what the heart of God's character is when I make choices that are only self-serving or about my comfort rather than the way of God. And it surprises me how Jesus does it. Jesus is successful. How does Jesus face all that? And what does any of that have to do with a very full week going on for us here? I'm convinced there's a common thread. And it's something like this. I mentioned that Jesus goes out into the wilderness immediately after having been baptized. And there, as he comes up out of the waters, the voice from heaven says, "You are my child. You are my beloved son." We just heard last Sunday in the story of Jesus' transfiguration, that voice comes back again, right? This is my son. Jesus knows who he is because he knows whose he is. That gives him clarity to know the way he's been sent to live out God's purposes isn't the way of comfort or success or power or military might or ruling kingdoms like emperors do, but the way of the cross. It's not an easy choice, but it is clearer for him because he knows whose he is. We face a difficult and heavy season in Lent and a time of goodbyes and bittersweetness here in the congregation as we say goodbye to a seminary intern. That's all heavy stuff. What will help us through it? What will help you and me through whatever else you're carrying these days? We're given the very same assurance Jesus was. You are God's child. You belong to the living God, and therefore that gives us guidance for how we face the world. We face the world walking in Jesus' footsteps. We face the world knowing that we are already declared God's children. And so this life of faith, this life of discipleship is not about what do I have to do to earn the status of being God's child. I am that already. I live and I act and I operate out of that identity. That's how Jesus knows how to respond to the tempter. He operates out of knowing I'm God's beloved child. I don't need to take any of these other sales pitches the tempter is offering me. I know who I am because I know whose I am. That gift is given to you and me as well. Join us this week as we begin the Lenten journey on Ash Wednesday. Join us on Sunday, both for the first Sunday in Lent, to hear about Jesus wrestling in the wilderness, and also as we have our farewell for Vicar Natalie. Join us for all these things and this whole Lenten journey as together we find ourselves drawn to Jesus and reminded of who and whose we are. See you on Sunday.